So when it comes to asking a narcissistic person a question, more often than not, you will not get an honest answer. You will not get a direct answer. You'll get an indirect answer. They'll divert the topic of conversation. They'll criticize you. They'll shame you. They'll judge you. They'll mock you. They'll blame somebody else. They'll play the grandiose hero. They will not answer the question at hand. They will leave you feeling disoriented, confused, anxious, frustrated, angry. And it can be down to simply them walking through the door and you asking them if they've had a good day. When it comes to narcissistic people, they don't like answering questions because they're extremely dishonest people that don't want people to recognize the truth about them. However, they can seemingly answer a question where it looks like they've answered your question, only they haven't answered it because you're the one that's left feeling confused, or you're the one that's left fearing whether to ask them next time if they've had a good day, because if you do ask them one day, you're in the wrong, and if you don't ask them the next day, you're in the wrong. So this is going to be a series of several questions you can ask a narcissist and the kind of answers you will get and why they simply can't answer these rather straightforward questions. So when it comes to narcissistic people, they have that grandiosity to them, that sense of self-importance where they believe that they are special, they believe they are entitled, therefore they should be allowed to do as they please, and they do not think that they should have to answer to you or answer to anybody for that matter of fact. Therefore, they're going to take offense to you asking them a question because it questions their sense of superiority over you. Therefore, a narcissist then seeks to punish you for daring to ask them a question. Your question has criticized who they are as a person, causing a narcissistic injury, causing a psychological injury. And their brain is then wired to go on the attack and punish you for daring to question their sense of superiority so that they can regain their sense of superiority. Or a narcissist might go on the vulnerability side of things. When they've been cornered, when they've been caught out in something, rather than take responsibility for their behaviour, take responsibility for their actions, take responsibility for what they've done. Narcissistic people don't do responsibility, they do shifting the blame. So they're going to find a scapegoat to blame. They're going to rationalise and justify their behaviour in such a way that although it doesn't make sense to you, it kind of makes sense to you, and you end up feeling compelled into feeling sorry for them, feeling bad for them, to the point where you've got sympathetic sorrow for them because they're so good at playing the victim to evade answering any questions, to evade being exposed for their behaviour. So when you ask a narcissist a question, they're going to come at you with that grandiose side of how they're better than thou, or that victim vulnerable side of how everything is everybody else's fault and nothing to do with them. Narcissistic people have that arrogance about them. They have that charismatic charm. They have that confidence to pull people into their illusion. However, because it's not who they are, because it's built on a world of smoke and mirrors, because it's built on a world of lies, they don't have the competence to keep up who they claim themselves to be, because they've usually claimed themselves to be the person that they're trying to impress, which isn't actually who the narcissist is. Who the narcissist is, they're trying to hide from the person they're trying to impress. Therefore, they're not going to answer a question honestly because they're trying to hide things from you. They're trying to deceive you. And if you ask them a question that they don't know the answer to, as they believe they are special, they believe they know everything. So they don't want to admit that they don't know the reason why something, or they don't want to admit why they do something, because to a narcissist, they already know everything. So the first two questions are about some interesting behaviour that most narcissistic people can display, and non-narcissistic people can display this behaviour also. However, there is a difference between the two. So one thing a narcissist will do is impress a stranger rather than care for their own family. So when you ask a narcissist why they would rather impress a stranger, why they would rather impress strangers, why they put a front on in front of strangers, why they act all grandiose at a party in front of strangers or even acquaintances, they're not going to turn around and say, no, I don't do that, do I? Do I really do that? Oh, I didn't realise I did that. Oh, maybe I need to take a look at myself and see why I feel the need to impress strangers, see why I feel the need to do that when I'm at a party, which a genuine person would do. A genuine person might think, well, I feel a bit uncomfortable, so if I put on the joker face, it just makes me feel a bit more comfortable at the party. It's nothing to do with you, it's more to do with my insecurities. Or they might just say, oh, I didn't realise I did that. It's a family member that I haven't seen for a while, so I just wanted to spend time talking to them because I know when I get home I can talk to you. It's nothing personal. I'm sorry, I didn't realise that offended you. I'll be more aware of it. They're not going to take narcissistic people aren't going to take responsibility for their behaviour. They're not going to acknowledge their behaviour. They're not going to question anything about themselves because they always believe that they are perfect. They believe that they know everything. They don't think they make mistakes. They believe they're entitled to act how they please, and they lack the empathy to care for how their behaviour might affect another person. They're just going to turn around and accuse people of overreacting, accuse people of imagining things, accuse people of being jealous, accuse people of misunderstanding them. They're going to shift any form of responsibility or accountability away from themselves onto somebody else. They're not going to recognise their behaviour. Even if their behaviour isn't wrong or is wrong, they're not going to recognise their behaviour or how their behaviour affects another person. They're just going to recognise that you've attacked them by questioning their sense of superiority, of being allowed to impress strangers while they blatantly ignore their own family. Narcissistic people will move on with a whole new family and go overboard with their stepchildren to sell people an illusion of what an amazing person they are, what an amazing parent they are, while they ignore their own children, either because they're not getting what they need from their own children or to punish the children's other parents. And by doing this, a narcissist kills two birds with one stone, because they also damage the reputation of the healthy parents and their children, because the narcissist is selling people an illusion to others by impressing the strangers, by impressing and being there for the stepchildren of just how amazing they are, that most people that are around that scenario don't see how the narcissist is causing the other scenario and ignoring their own children. So when their own children and their exes try to speak out about how they've been mistreated by the narcissist, people don't believe them. So the narcissist can evade exposure. So it works well for a narcissist to sell strangers an illusion of who they can be, because the narcissist can gain enablers. Narcissists can gain flying monkeys that believe the narcissist lies. Until, of course, it happens to them and the narcissist starts impressing another stranger over them, because narcissistic people are seeking that excessive admiration. They do kind of tell on themselves. Some of them will tell on themselves. Some of them will just say, well, if you'd have paid me more attention. And they mean that. They genuinely mean that. However, no matter how much attention you pay to a narcissist, because they're seeking excessive admiration, it is never going to be enough for them, because they are envious of what other people have. Nothing will be good enough for them. They're always going to be seeking more. They're always looking at what others have got, rather than being grateful for what they've got themselves. They're always thinking that somebody has stolen from them, taken something from them. So they're always seeking to take that off another person to feel better about themselves. So some narcissistic people will tell on themselves, but they do it in an accusational manner. They turn around and say, well, if you'd have paid me more attention, my children have no respect for me. And the children have usually lost respect for the narcissistic parent, because they've recognised that the narcissistic parent comes on strong and love bombs when they want something from the child, and then ignores when the child doesn't fall into line. It's not socialising a child. It's not disciplining a child. It's not teaching a child life skills. Narcissistic parents teach children how to conform to the narcissist's demands. They lack the empathy to care for how that has a knock-on effect to other aspects of that child's life. Narcissistic people want to impress strangers because they're selling people an illusion to get that excessive admiration they feel like they're entitled to. Strangers are a blank canvas. Their family aren't giving them what the narcissist believes they're entitled to. Their family has seen through them. However, they're not going to admit to this. They're going to admit to it in a manner where they pass the blame on to you, if you'd have paid me more attention, or they're going to say it in a format that shames you. They're going to accuse you of overreacting, of being jealous, of being bitter, of being insecure, and they'll say that story to other people because they're looking to damage your reputation so that they can keep theirs intact. And number two, which is an interesting behaviour of narcissistic people, is they always have to walk 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. They always have to keep that place ahead of you, which again is them telling on themselves. They're showing that sense of superiority, that they're in charge, that they're the master, that they should have to stay ahead of you. And not just walking ahead of you, there's so many games they play to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of you. Now there's people that are tall, there's people who just walk fast. There's plenty of reasons why people might walk in front of you, and they are not narcissistic people. However, if you was to turn around and just say, hey, why do you always have to just like stay 2 steps ahead of me? They're going to turn around and go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise I did that. Yeah, maybe I'm just a fast walker. It's nothing personal. I didn't realise that offended you. I'll try to slow it down a bit, but I can't promise anything because I've been this way for a long time. And the other person's going to be, oh yeah, it's fine. I was just wondering. I've got no issue. I just wanted to know why, rather than cause a debate. But thank you. It's appreciated that you're willing to try and slow it down sometimes. And if you don't worry about it. And there's that 2-way conversation where both parties recognise within themselves how they're feeling and the things that they do. And they might not notice these, but when they do crop up, they can communicate with each other. A narcissistic person, they're walking ahead of you due to their sense of superiority, due to their entitlement, due to the fact that they might not even want to be seen with you. Yet if you question them, they're going to turn around and say, why do you walk so slow? It's not me walking ahead, it's you walking slow. Well, who'd want to be seen with you looking like that? They're going to invalidate you. They're going to put you down because asking them why they walk ahead has caused that narcissistic injury. It's caused that psychological injury. It's questioned their sense of entitlement to walk at a pace they desire to walk at. And rather than recognizing this behavior within themselves, they're going to find a way to shame you for daring to ask them a simple question. Questions are important in life because it's how we learn about each other. It's how we get to understand each other. It's how we don't get offended by each other, because you ask a question, they explain, you explain, and you communicate and compromise. Whereas with a narcissistic person, you ask them a question and they can validate your feelings by accusing you of being jealous, and then invalidate you by blaming you for being jealous, even though they've created that jealousy within you by their actions. But they're not going to turn around and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise that behaviour was making you feel, yes, I am a bit like that. It's nothing personal. They're not going to take responsibility for their behaviour. They're going to shame you for your emotional reactions. They lack the empathy to care for how their behaviour is making you feel. You can ask them why they walk ahead, and they can just turn around and say, oh, here we go again, always having a go at me, aren't you? I forgot you was perfect. So you're left a bit like, you don't ask them things, you don't communicate with them. And when you can't ask them things, when you can't communicate with them, you can't get to know them for who they are as a person, to know their dislikes and likes, to know the little things about them, to get to understand who they are as a person, to get to understand why they feel a need to be sarcastic, to get to understand why they walk ahead. You can't communicate with them to learn about who they are as a person because of their own insecurities. They're trying to hide who they are as a person from you, and due to their own insecurities, due to their own inadequacies of not being able to recognise the things they do, they're going to point out any flaw they can within you to make you feel inadequate so that they can feel smug. When it comes to narcissistic people, they often have a grandiose sense of self-importance. They believe they are superior. They are envious of other people. They are incredibly entitled people. They are arrogant to the point where they believe they know everything, and they believe that they shouldn't have to answer to you, and they lack the empathy to care for how their behaviour affects you. Only how you calling them out on their behaviour might affect their reputation. If anyone has any thoughts on this video, please do add those into the comments. If anyone has any questions they've asked a narcissist and not got a straightforward answer to, please do add those into the comments also. Thank you very much to all the returning subscribers and your continued support with the channel. It's greatly appreciated. If you are new to the channel, I'm Elizabeth Shaw. This channel is all about narcissistic behaviour to give you more understanding of the people you might be dealing with within your life, how to handle yourself around those people if you cannot go no contact, and different methods to find what works for you to help you understand and overcome narcissistic and emotional abuse. If you do find the information helpful on the channel, please do subscribe. If you are looking for someone to speak to, I have partnered with BetterHelp, and their sponsored link is in the video description. If you're looking for further information on understanding and overcoming narcissistic and emotional abuse, I do have several online guides available, and those teachable links are also in the video description. Go out there and create the day that you deserve, because you do deserve to have an amazing day. Bye.